Good evening, everyone. Let's see. Looks like most everyone has joined us. Others will be joining as we go along from the public, from the cooperators. So, welcome everyone to the annual meeting of East River Housing Corp. Tonight, Monday, November 20th, 2023. The first item that we just need to deal with is the acceptance of the agenda. And I'd ask our Vice President to make a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Jeff. So that's accepted. And the next is the acceptance of the minutes as prepared by our Corporation Counsel, Michael Riley, from last year's meeting of December 14th, 2022.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So I want to welcome everybody to our annual meeting. The agendas were passed around today, and basically, first I'm going to give the president's report. We'll then hear from our House Committee Chair, Jeff Super. We're then going to have our Vice President and Election Committee Chair, Ellen Gentaviso, introduce the candidates, followed by our counsel, Michael Riley from North McLaughlin, who will just discuss the procedures for the counting of the ballots, and then we'll get to the questions that have been submitted and answers. Some of the questions will be answered. Some of the questions will be answered within my presentation. Others will be answered, of course, as we get to them. And the meeting we expect to go on to until 9 o'clock, or if we're finished with all the answers and questions, we'll adjourn earlier. But meanwhile, I want to thank everyone for who is attending and those who are joining us. I think the first topic that the most important topic of this past year in our building has been the gas line situation in Building 4, which happened on a Friday night in late April. As you know, we've been communicating with our cooperators on a continuous basis. I think as of Friday, we had sent out 52 communications, some to all cooperators, many of them to the lines that were affected where we were working, some building-wide, again, some just line-wise. After a wait of, I think, 24 to 28 days, the buildings department did come down today and inspected 4 lines and also 1 new line. That was the second inspection. The first inspection, when the work is done, is DOB comes down, checks with the wall opened, and checks that everything looks fine in there. But then they want to come back for what's called a finishing inspection. Anyone who has a cabinet over their oven, they want that cabinet then put back, I guess, just in case a nail goes into the gas pipe or whatever. So they come back, but that involves another inspection. After today's inspection finishing, which was passed, we've passed every inspection. The next step is waiting for Con Edison. Con Edison then comes down. We hope quickly, but it never seems to be that way, quicker than the DOB. Con Edison comes down, does their inspection of the line. And after that, we have to wait for Con Edison to come down one more time, which is when they actually turn on the gas and everyone finally needs to be home. So when the gas is turned on in each apartment, our plumbers go in and actually take the locked valve and turn it on just to make sure there's no issue. We haven't had an issue, but to give you enough, now we are on a very, very quick schedule. We have a great plumbing company, but the main thing is that we wait for DOB to come. You know, we say, okay, they're busy, but the fact is we're at their mercy. And I just asked Shuli to just go over about where we are on the lines, right, as of now.
Hi, good evening. How are you? It's been since April 22nd, since we started the gas. When we had the gas shutdown, we've accomplished, I believe, and through the industry, we've done very well. At current, we have 147 apartments completed with gas. And today, we accomplished to have 105 inspections, 105 apartments that are what's called finish inspections. And the DOB puts it into the system where we can then call Con Ed. Again, wishful thinking. I did hope that we would have this by Thanksgiving for these apartments, but at best, we're looking for a week after Thanksgiving or 10 days after Thanksgiving to be able to get the gas on in the apartments that were inspected today. It is running smooth, but anytime something runs too smooth, there are always hiccups. To the reverse, at current, to date, we've demoed 20 lines of apartments that have gas that have been inspected. Today, the K5, we have virtually completed the demolition. There are 2 apartments that are still out there. And once those are completed, we're going to start piping. We didn't want to pipe starting today and start wrecking people's apartments 2 days before Thanksgiving. And there is one line that still has not been touched at all. That's the M02 line. And we will start, you'll be receiving notifications about when you can start making your appointments for demolition. I am hoping by January, end of January, we will accomplish all these tasks. We will accomplish the plumbing, the demolition. We just have to wait for the DOB to give us inspections, which sometimes is not easy. It's like pulling teeth, and we try our hardest. And we understand that the cooperators have gone through a long time. But remember, this was a gas emergency, and we are trying to accommodate everybody. And I thank everybody for working with the management team. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. I would say that even in the last line, the MO2 line, we have done demo in at least one apartment, if not 2. The reason actually that we haven't gone further with the demo there, and even on the K5 line, is that because the DOB is taking so long to come, we're just trying not to create holes in people's walls, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks before necessary. If we could get the DOB down and Con Edison down, the job would probably be 98% finished by now, if not 100%. But we're somewhat at their mercy, and whatever the rules are, we follow and we do. But just so, as said at some previous meetings, understand in every apartment the cooperators are been great. I mean, we come into an apartment 12 or 14 different times. We need to come in between demo, piping, opening up for the inspection, closing for an inspection, Con Edison, on, and then we do the finishing work. We have seen some great kindness from cooperators who have allowed us to come into their apartment to help their neighbor who might have a special kitchen or might have a somewhat older kitchen, but the tiles aren't available, and people let us come in many cases and do work out of the kindness of their hearts. It doesn't mean that we haven't found cooperators who are very difficult for us. We have to be honest. There are cooperators who are difficult, but Shuli is pretty amazing at winning them over, because one way or the other, no cooperator is holding up a job in a line. Remember that when we do the piping, we can't do piping in any line until we can't do the fourth floor until we do the third floor, until we do the second floor. It takes a lot of cooperation, and we've done everything we can to make it as easy for cooperators for us to get in, whether they leave the key with us, whether it's lockbox, neighbors. So it is worked out rather well. I think that would lead us to, after we came out with the assessment, we had the issue of the asbestos. We had a meeting on the project, a Zoom meeting in May or June. Several weeks later, when asbestos was found in the first of the lines, we had another meeting strictly on the asbestos. And at that point, we told the cooperators that once we know the full extent of the asbestos, we will know how much the additional cost would be and what kind of extension we would need for the asbestos work to be completed on our assessment. We put that was in the annual report. It's been in numerous letters that we have sent to all cooperators. At this point, now that we only have one line to go, we're fairly comfortable, and we've seen at least 1 or 2 apartments in that line. We're fairly comfortable in seeing a final figure on the asbestos work and some other work that went with the asbestos work. We had to do some unique accesses in some cases, and it looks now that the assessment will have to be increased, and the board just met the other night on this by 4 months. By an additional 4 months at the same $107 an apartment rate. We have found that we have found asbestos in 7 lines. That cost is pretty much fixed, but there's an air monitoring cost that's involved. And we've also had additional expenses. In some cases, we've literally had to go through the balcony to get, with some brickwork done, to get to the kitchen. Because as we say, we take every kitchen the way it is. And there are a lot of kitchens. Some kitchens were so high end that it would have cost us a crazy amount to do this. So there will be an additional 4-month assessment to cover the asbestos, and that will cover the full job. Not patting staff on the back really, but Deneen and Kayla in our office have handled every cooperator, every call. In addition to Shirley, who goes up to most apartments, they've handled every call every day. Every day something changes. They've done it with, amazing kindness and calmness. And I think they're owed, for anyone who's dealt with them, they're owed a debt of gratitude. But even other buildings and other managers that we've spoken to are truly amazed at how far we've come with this many apartments in this short a time. And again, if we could just call buildings department down, it would all be. But we're hoping things will speed up, and hopefully everyone will have, and the people in building 4 will all have their gas back. And I say, they have the newest, safest gas line in New York City. If the city has its way, one of the last gas lines in New York City. But we're going to keep that up. Now, just to, I just want to point out, and this is just a safety thing, 99% of the time, people have to do whatever they think, right? 99% of the time when a cooperator smells gas, it's found to be the burner was left on, or they have an old pilot and the flame went out, or the burner was on and the flame went out. And in almost all cases, that's a minor thing a maintenance can do, but everyone must do what they think is necessary, and if they think they have to call 911, they should do that. But again, if it's a pilot, that is something we're allowed to touch. We're not allowed to touch other gas, but right now, while the plumber is on premises, we have been able to use their services. Again, the law has changed because of gas explosions, and nobody is allowed to have an oven installed except for a licensed master plumber who has special gas licenses. I know that other co-ops near us are charging $1,200. Woman came into the office to speak to Schiffer that she bought a $500 oven and it cost her $1,200 to put in. We have been able to make a good deal. It's not a good deal compared to the old days of how you were able to hook up, PC Richards can come in and hook it up. There was a charge of $700 that our plumbers will come to install your oven, but that would also involve them coming the day before to disconnect your old oven because no one is allowed to disconnect gas. This is a very, very, very strict law, and the plumber will come the day before, will disconnect your oven. Then if whichever company delivers your oven, if they'll remove your oven, great. And then the plumber will come back and hook up your new oven in the proper way with a new flex hose. In fact, in all cases, probably a flex hose, and everyone will be set to go. To move on to the next topic, just want to mention in passing, because it's in the annual report, our issues with Hillman are sadly still ongoing since they decided to break away a little over 3 years ago. Currently, I believe the number that they owe us is $1.4 million. They often pay their monthly bills to us, but remember, we're the ones laying out the money for oil and gas and all the other expenses. We don't get it back for quite a while. They still have not paid us back for our 32 BJ, the crew there, for their accrued sick leave and vacation time. They still have not. Sorry, this litigation. We meet with them. We think we can come to a settlement, and then they just go back to their attorney. So again, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, people who live there, but we have this issue. It's costing them legal expense. It's costing us needless legal expense. I want to thank our staff. I want to thank our management staff. I want to thank our maintenance staff. Bob Westcott retired this year. His deputy, Eddie Velasquez, took over. I think that one of the big things that Hillman lost when they broke away from us is the expertise that so many of our guys have in so many areas. Eddie is very, very hands-on. He can fix almost everything, whether it's a compactor. There are items that now Hillman has to go out and spend $10,000, $20,000 for that we fix right here on the premises. Incredibly handy. I want to thank Jimmy. We're in the heating season. They're always providing us with the heat and hot water. Thomas Cleveland is our chief of security. And again, as I often say, we have a staff that are here. The low man on the totem pole in some cases is here 15 years. There are some new guys, of course, but just we have an incredible staff who are here 20, 30, 35, and more years that we don't look forward to when they when they all retire. In terms of speaking of Cleveland and security, for a period of about 6 weeks, we have added Monday to Friday on the shift from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have added an extra security post in the guard booth on Grand Street. And we just figured during the holiday season, it's always advised by the police department, some more activity is going on. So we will have someone there again for the next at least 4 or 5 weeks, similar to what we did last year. Public safety is always an issue and a concern for us. As you may have heard, the mayor announced because of he needs a $12 billion at this point shortfall, I guess, for the issue with the migrants, that some of the drastic cuts that are about to come in include the depletion of the police force down to 29,000 men and women. At one point when crime was high in the late 80s and early 90s, at 91, I know because my boss Peter Malone created the Safe Streets, Safe City program, where we were able through a taxation for a 7-year promise, which was then kept, increase our police force up to the high of 41,000. We know we had record low crime for many, many years. But now with this depletion that's coming up, either through attrition, they're canceling the next 4 classes, and because now the existing officers are earning a lot of overtime, some of them with seniority are going to wind up retiring because it's best to retire. It used to be they took the last year's salary and they got a lot of overtime. They could retire with a big pension. Now it's based on the 3-year process, but there'll be an incentive for also experienced police officers to retire. And that's another issue. But we know that our precinct itself, which claims the crime is very low here, other than issues around, for the most part, at CVS on 500 grand, but mostly 2 other sites, and that's the Trader Joe and the Target, where there's always a police presence, and also the smoke shops, the illegal smoke shops along Delancey. I believe there's now one legal smoke shop in our precinct. Every month on the second Wednesday of the month, there is a community council meeting of the 7th precinct. Everybody is invited to attend. Elected officials come, they send reps. It's a great chance to ask questions, not only of the commander, but of also our elected reps. And yet, I try to go all the time. Sometimes we have board meetings, but yet when you get to the meeting, and we've discussed this many times, very few East River cooperators come to those meetings. I could tell you that, generally at that meeting, you will see from our, and please if I leave anybody off, you will see Carmen Avello, who's a board member, who's the assistant recording secretary. You'll see Christine Vasquez, who's a member of our House committee. You will see our Democratic district leader, Lee Berman, there. I've seen Brian Rossi's there sometimes, but generally other people are not there. This is a great opportunity. First of all, we meet other people from other parts of the precinct and other co-ops, and it's really, really important. Issues that were brought up just at last week's meeting that I raised, I think Lee may have raised some also, were the issue of e-bikes on the street, motorcycles on the street. To walk in the street is becoming deadly. And the answer we get is that the police do not chase after, even if there are no plates, they don't chase after any motorcycle or e-bike because they're fearful of a crash. People are going through red lights. We know the issue with shoplifting. We see it. We see the security in Trader Joe's. I mean, they like to stand around the tomatoes, but they're there. I don't know what they're protecting, but CVS, where more things are being locked up, and the fear for our neighborhood is that another store could wind up closing because of this. In terms of our own co-op, we have been rather secure. We try to keep, experienced guards in every building. Cleveland is really on top of things. There was one incident that I'm not going to rehash the incident that happened a year ago, last August. But in that incident, cooperator let the person into the building, held the door for the person, let them into the building. We keep writing in the annual report, please, if you don't know the person, don't let them in. I know it's not the easiest thing, but sometimes you could say, I forgot something, and walk around to the main entrance. Okay, but don't, and that's why it's your responsibility to have your key out when you're at the main entrance, not for our guards to buzz you in, which they'll do as a courtesy, but your key has to be out. Next, we switched landscaping companies this year. We were able to not only reduce our costs, but get an excellent company. And I think I hope they can all agree that we've had, the flowers are still, the annuals are still, we put in more perennials, but the annuals are still flowering in all our parks. And it's really, they did a great job. We hope that they'll be back next year, that they don't think they gave us too good of a deal and don't want to come. And that, of course, that'll tie into congestion pricing where the trucks come. But we're very happy with Marvin Garcia with landscaping. The next big topic, and it was reported in the annual report, is that our engineers and our architects who have been with us for 50, 60 years, it used to be Antonucci and Lawless, now Lawless and Mangione, that our roofs need replacing. That's always been talked about, that the day will come when our roofs need replacing, our elevators will need replacing. Well, the time has come. We put in a 20-year no-limit John Mansfield roof. It was a top-of-the-line roof in 1990, 1991, 90, and we've gotten 33, 34 years out of the roofs, but our engineers say they are beyond their useful life and need replacing. That will be the next major capital project. We understand that right now we have this assessment going on for the gas and the additional 4 months, which would be July, August, September, October 1st of next year. So Shuli and I have been meeting with our engineers numerous times over the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, to come up with a plan of not only bidding out this job, but to have them see if we can get a company to start the work on the job, but not bill us, hold off on billing us for X number of months so we can catch up. It's possible that the next roof, which sadly will outlive some of us, but will be now the roof will probably be a 25-year roof. The codes have changed greatly in the past 30, 35 years on roofs. The roofs that we put in, very likely it'll be recommended, can't say for sure, to be white roofs. Those are environmentally friendly roofs. They're cool roofs, and that's what we will be looking at. But we are talking, we don't have the bids yet, but just because our engineers have done roofs in so many large buildings, co-ops similar to ours, our roofs, the top of our roofs are, was it 40,000 square feet? Each of our roofs, that they know that the cost of the roofs is probably going to run the roofs about $6.5 to $7 million. Hopefully on the 6.5 side, but that's going to be a big expense. Well, as we know more, we are hoping that there are tax credits that we will be eligible for. And the board has been discussing for a long time the issue of, can we put solar panels on our roof? Because that is the one spot that gets maybe we think enough sun, but the most sun. You can't have it in the park with shade and other stuff. And we have been, Shuli and I have been discussing with our engineer and our experts, Faisal and Basil Taha, and we are looking at putting solar panels, if possible, on all the roofs. We couldn't do it before. You can't put the panels and then expect them to be removed and put down the roof. So now we are looking at solar panels. Those solar panels, we were just getting some numbers from them last week. They refined them actually this afternoon. we are talking that those solar panels could run about $3 million. But they will have a payback. First of all, there could be a tax break on some of them, but solar panels also need maintenance, so there'll be a cost each year. We believe that the payback would be probably no more than 10 years payback. We might be able to save about 5% on our energy bill every year. We have a high energy bill, so if we can pay back in, it might be 9 years, but when you add in the maintenance cost of maintaining the panels, approximately 10 years, and after that, it will be, you know, all profit. But that will be a self-funding thing. But that means we're talking in the range of $9 million or nine just for both of those, with some payback and hopefully some tax credits. We hope to spread the job out over years, which means we have to hope, to be honest, that our elevators hold up. They're still in decent enough shape according to our engineers. But those are the two major capital projects that we will be facing in the coming years. Yes, it's possible we need another gas line, but we hope not. There's no reason why we should need another gas line, but it's possible. You know, anytime the city comes down, call 911. The city comes down, they'll probably shut down a line. You know, so let's hope not. Let's hope things go well. Look, our buildings. I like to speak every year about our debt to value ratio. We have a mortgage of $40 million here in East River. We have a line of credit that we have not used. But if you take that, our value is a $1.5 billion. I'm using probably a conservative number. Even if it was $1.5 billion, then our debt to ratio is something like 3% or less. 3%, 3.5%, maybe 4%. Which again, for anyone who has a mortgage, you would love that your debt is down to 3-4%. I don't have the exact numbers, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe that the mortgage in Seward is at least 80, and I have a feeling that it's 120 or 130 million dollars, much more than double ours. I know that Penn South, which has not gone free market, has a mortgage much higher than that, well into the mid to high hundreds. So financially, we're very, very sound. We're not looking to borrow more money. We have a mortgage of 2.87% for 10 years, so we have about 7 more years on it, 7.5 more years running on it, at which time we would have to refinance. But that truly is again a great negotiator, and we have our mortgage with New York Community Bank, and we've been very, very lucky with them. And if anyone asks, if we have any money on hand, can we invest it in, some banks are paying 3-4%. Doesn't work that way. And remember, that's something new. To get high interest, we have to, under the terms of our mortgage, keep all our money with NYCB. Whatever we can earn, but they want it in a certain form, and that is what we do. The resiliency and overpass project that we've all been living with, suffering through, is moving along. I would hope that we're well past a halfway point in it. We meet, surely we're having meetings with their staff. It used to be on a weekly basis. What's happened over time is a lot of the city staff working on this project have left the city, maybe perhaps for greener pastures. Maybe they don't like that they have to come into work 5 days. Whatever reason, some of the people we worked with Surely Jimmy Ritchie, our chief engineer, does go out. They have another meeting next week, I believe, not this week, but Thanksgiving, with the engineers and the people working on the overpass. Remember, the pile driving that's going on the overpass is because the new overpass has to be about 100 feet longer than it is now. It has to be universal grade, which means it's wider, and the slope is going to be much more gradual to help with whatever the federal standards are, so people with handicaps can get up and down. And that's why ultimately our parking lot gate in the building 3-4 parking lot, Delancey Street, will be moving over more towards the compactor, and it will be a single gate. That is something the city will be responsible for. Some of the recent work that we have done is for those in building 2, the walkway from the main entrance down to the park was all redone. It had sunk over the years. Water was flooding there. And we recently redid it with new drains. There's one drain in front of building 2, which is a dry well. And that's something we have to kind of scoop out. But they did some heavy, I think we have one heavy storm since then. And it's holding by building 1 into the park, the condensate line. It's one of our last condensate lines, we hope, was leaking. The steam was coming out, and that was replaced again on a 5-day schedule. It was replaced. The cement was put back. The park was reopened, I think, in 5 or 6 days. Just to get an idea of cost, the building 2 job was about $45,000. The building 1 condensate line was about $55,000. But you may recall that recently we were doing cement work along the supermarket on Grand Street and around the corner. And that was required. I walk there all the time, and I don't think I noticed that there was anything truly wrong with the sidewalk and broken up. But we got a violation, and the violation from DOT says the New York City Department of Transportation recently received a complaint regarding sidewalk conditions in your neighborhood. Well, if someone thinks they're calling because there's one cracked sidewalk and doesn't let us know, and thinks they want to call the DOT or 311 to report it, that's fine. But when the inspector comes down, they almost use chalk marks, and they just make X's, and then they put it on a chart. They make X's and boxes. It's no big deal for them to do an extra box here and an extra box there. And maybe that's passable, but what the hell, I'll mark it off. Well, because whoever called, and maybe it was a cooperator, maybe not, that job cost us $179,100. Okay. So again, unexpected, and I don't know if anyone would say, "Oh yeah, I remember the sidewalk was broken up." And yet, if you walk by some city parks, you can't believe where Sheriff Street Park is on Delancey Street, between Columbia and Willett. You could have, like this, and that is acceptable. Next, I want to get to a very important issue, and it will be the subject of some questions, and that's congestion pricing. Congestion pricing is coming. It's coming. It's coming soon. We have questions from people saying, "What did the board do, or what are we doing about congestion pricing?" And I'll quote JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. People are asking what, but very few people have shown up at meetings, are arguing, are approaching their elected officials to fight this. And it's been going on now for 4 years. Some of us approach every elected official we see. Last week at the police precinct meeting, our assemblywoman, I did bring it up with her at a meeting about 5 months ago, but an aide came down and talked about congestion pricing. and she said that our office is working on commuter vans and congestion pricing. Commuter vans would be the dollar vans that I think go, from one neighborhood to others. And I just got up and said, what about the people who live in, it's fine to say commuter vans. What about those of us that live in the district? You are forcing us to, we're going to be living in a ghetto. Someone later on took a slight offense, but I didn't. Ghetto in the sense of we cannot leave the zone without paying. I know, and I have to give credit because I know he's been out there. Lee Berman, our district leader, again was there that night and helped me to bring this to their attention that this is not fair. We can't go shopping outside our area. We cannot go to the doctor. We can't visit family, and our family won't want to visit here. As I said to this aide, to the assemblywoman, if my daughter, if she's out at night and a friend wants to drive her home because a friend's on the way to Brooklyn, how could the friend do that anymore? What's the friend going to pay? Whatever the fee is to drop her off, and we live one block. If we need to go to Cornell, Sloan Kettering, heaven forbid, Mount Sinai, we cannot go up there. We cannot go up there in our car. Someone who's taking chemo at Sloan Kettering is not getting on the bus, okay, and maybe can't afford an Uber. Someone is driving them up. We cannot go up there because we are going to come back into the zone. Yet somebody can come from Maine, the great state of Maine, all the way up north, drive straight down a highway, which I don't know if there are any tolls, come, don't even have to go to the GW Bridge. They could probably wiggle their way down, down to Deegan and not pay a penny and go to those hospitals. We can't go to the doctors there. We are being trapped in, I think, some of our kids go to school north of the zone, school like Eleanor Roosevelt in Manhattan, which is basically a District 2 school. We cannot. As Lee put out, was at a press conference, it was back in July. If someone can obtain that video, it was just excellent at hitting on all the points. We cannot go anywhere, but yet we're going to pay. And those who don't have cars and think, oh, this is good, please remember the price in the supermarket is going to go up because the delivery trucks, everything we do, our landscaper with the trucks, they have to be paid. Every vendor that comes has to be, the people who do, even though it's a big job, who do our excavating, every job. And I just want to read just to see the absurdity, the absurdity. So first of all, I urge everyone, keep calling elected officials. Ellen Gentavisa, our vice president, been working with a group called the New York Power Partnership. It's a neighborhood group who are involved in this issue and many other community issues. Last week, we posted that there was a meeting at 40 Montgomery at the community board dealing a little bit with congestion pricing. Then they cut it off. They didn't. I know a board member went. Lee was there. I know that a board member's spouse went and stuff. But people, you have to take every opportunity, whether you're successful or not. Our congressman has held a hearing with Jerry Nadler pushing for congestion pricing. Our own elected officials whose residents are in the district are for this. But Jerry Nadler had an op-ed in yesterday's Sunday's Daily News, about New Jersey can't block congestion pricing. And let's just read what he said, that if Jersey tries to put a kibosh on this, they could place New York's transportation infrastructure in jeopardy, undermining funding for critically needed upgrades. He writes, Governor Murphy is fighting congestion pricing to appease a small number of wealthier constituents who choose to commute by car. Are we a small number of wealthy constituents? Jerry Nadler's district goes from 100th Street on the west side down to, not our congressman, down to the Battery. We are not those wealthy people. Those people from Jersey will wind up with a credit most likely, for what the toll they're paying on the GW Bridge or the Holland or Lincoln Tunnel. We as of now, we don't know the final pen, we get no credit. Okay. He then talks about the congestion pricing program will improve air quality in the region and reduce the economy stifling traffic congestion in Manhattan's central business district. Friends, we don't live in the central business district. We live in a fully residential district. So our own elected officials are working against us. And when he says it improves air quality, one of the purposes of the meeting last week at the Muni Board was that it's been reported that the air quality in our neighborhood is going to get worse with congestion pricing. From Montgomery Street up to 10th Street, because of the extra cars on the FDR Drive trying to avoid it and heading however they're going to head to the Brooklyn Bridge, the air quality in our neighborhood is going to go up. So we are going to have the extra price. We're going to have the extra health pollution on top of what's going on across the street. And we're going to be trapped. We're going to be trapped within here. So please, I don't know if there's still time. I think it's probably all been decided because elections just ended. Maybe they're waiting till after the holiday season or whatever. But don't give up. But reach out to your elected officials. Our elected officials in this area, I stopped everyone. One of them asked for my endorsement last year when our incumbent state senator gave him half-hour earful on this. See him at the precinct again. I know Lee's doing it. You have to pound this. We're just a small portion. We're a tiny portion of this, but it's going to affect. And yeah, I'm worried it's going to affect our co-op because at some point you don't know what is a breaking point. But we're not getting help from our own, elected officials there. Just a few more things, and then I'm going to turn it over and stuff. No, I think for now, Jeff, I think let's go to your report, and then we'll go to questions that haven't been contained within. Okay. So thank you. And this is just want to call upon Jeff Super from the House Committee, our longtime chair of our House Committee. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Gary. A lot of good community issues raised, and we will have looked at some of them and we'll talk with you about seeing what we can do to focus on these things as well. The House Committee is a long-standing ER tradition. 11 of our fellow cooperators were elected by their neighbors. What we do is focus on quality of life issues, and that's a very broad definition. We serve in an advisory capacity to the board and management and try to represent the views of our fellow cooperators. At this point, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the members for their active participation and service. I do want to mention them by name. Hopefully, if we get back to in-person meetings, I could have them stand up so you could see who they are. But reach out to these people if you know them and get to know them because they're interested in what your ideas are. So the members of our committee currently are Christine Alaferis, who's our secretary, takes the minutes. Wonderful job. Sam Amer, Anthony Brownie, who serves as our vice chair, Cheryl David, Timothy Rucker, Tom Skibicki, and Christine Vasquez. I also want to thank Carmen Alvello, who was a former House Committee member, now on the board, and she serves as board liaison to ensure that we're working together where it's appropriate. At this point, I must acknowledge the dedicated, extraordinary service of Leo Honig. Leo, who was a longtime chair of the House Committee, passed away this year, as many of you know. He led the committee. He's got involved in a lot of community activities and did a lot for East River, particularly with regard to public transportation for our area. He'll be greatly missed. The House Committee meets on a monthly basis And we ask each member to get involved in at least one of our 3 separate subcommittees. We break them down to buildings and grounds, what we call community initiatives, and also cooperator communications. The Buildings and Grounds Group is led by Tom Skibicki, and one of the main activities that they conduct are periodic walkthroughs of all the public areas. Occasionally, we will visit some of the floors within the building just to see conditions, and also look at outside grounds. This committee also focuses on security. Any observations we have are conveyed to maintenance and management, and any constructive recommendations that we come up with are made. There are many examples of that, some little things and some big things. Many years ago, the committee did involve with the guidance of one of our former members who passed away last year, Larry Goldman, the erection of our signs that show the address of each building's a major improvement. But there are a lot of little things that come up too that have helped maintenance over the years. Tom's philosophy, or leader of this group, is if you see something, say something. And this is what we encourage cooperators to do. What we feel we are in this area is another pair of eyes. So, if you see something that you think is amiss or needs attention, you should report it, because, everything can't be seen every day. And if you have an idea that you would like to see us address, you should contact the House Committee, and I will get to that later, how to do that. The next committee I want to mention is what we call our Community Initiatives Committee, and this is headed by Christine Vasquez. As Gary mentioned, she is a always attends the 7th Precinct Council, the Community Council meetings, to stay up on mostly what's going on in our area relative to crime and other related issues. Sam Amer, who is sort of the committee's security maven, also often attends those meetings. Members also do attend various Community Board 3 meetings. And Gary mentioned one of the hot issues going on, congestion pricing, and anybody can attend those meetings. The schedules are out there. The ones that I would say deserve the most attention, that would affect us the most, probably are the Transportation Committee, Subcommittee, and the Parks Committee, which of course will get updates on the East River Resiliency Project. At our most recent House Committee meeting, we House Committee members acted as a sort of a focus group for an accessibility study that's being conducted by an architectural firm and sponsored by the Department of Transportation. Parks Department is involved too. It was a very productive session reflecting the varying views of our members, some who walk in our community, some who use bicycles, and some who use cars, how some of the ideas that the community had come up with relative to accessing the park. And what we'll do is summarize this. I don't want to go into a whole detail thing and put a report in our next newsletter. And that leads me to our last area, which we call cooperator communications. We do publish a periodic East River newsletter. We hope to have one out early next year. This committee is chaired by our vice chair, Anthony Brownie. We were very pleased to be able to hold our first community social event since the start of the pandemic last June. Of course, that was the ice cream social. Seemed to be very well attended. Most people had a lot of fun. It was great for us to be able to meet members of the community and get your input, and everybody enjoyed the ice cream. hopefully we'll have an upcoming social activity somewhere early winter or late winter, early spring, and be able to get more input. That's very important. A simple example, we heard from a shareholder that the crossing at Grand Street was in terrible condition, and this particularly affected people who used mobilized equipment. And after all, we are a Newark community, wheelers, etc. I called our council member and got information on how to address this. And within a week, the situation was corrected. Now, that's a terrible crossing, and it probably needs more work, but at least it was passable for the moment. So those are the kinds of things that, we can do to help. We do want to hear from you, your ideas or concerns about quality of life broadly at East River and within our community are very important. The easiest way to contact us is via our email. I'll give you the address. It's erhousecommittee@aol.com. I'll repeat that, erhousecommittee@aol.com. There also is a direct link on the Directors tab on the East River website that you can access that email address. And in closing, I do want to note that as of now, or after the election is finalized and so forth, there will be 2 open positions on the House Committee. And I encourage any cooperators who would like to get involved, would like to contribute to the committee, even serve as what we call a provisional member, which would only be for 1 year, the coming year, to contact us again using that email, erhousecommittee@aol.com, or you can simply drop a note to the House Committee at the management office. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope everyone will enjoy their Thanksgiving holidays.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, and thank you for the work the House Committee is doing. As Jeff said, everyone are the eyes and ears of our community in the building, our community in our neighborhood, to try and keep everyone safe and aware and involved and the best that can be done. I thank you, Jeff, for bringing up Leo Honig. I knew Leo for 50 years when I'm from Hillman, but when I first met my wife, and she was an original East River, and my in-laws were very good friends with Leo's parents, who were just wonderful, wonderful people, and Leo was active to his last day on DOT issues, with the UFT union, with the UFT retirees. Leo was there. Leo had a direct line to the borough commissioner of DOT in Manhattan, and he will be missed. I want to thank everyone. Has the annual report and the financials. Saul Wenig and Harry Packer, who put in weeks and months to get that ready for our auditors, and it doesn't get easier because there's so many new standards that have to be met in the accounting accounting industry. At this point, I want to mention and name my fellow current board members. First, we have our vice president, who's joining here now, Ellen Gentaviso, whose institutional memory is astounding and is always there. Remember, for us, our secretary, Dov Goldman, our treasurer, Michelle Amar, as Jeff said in alphabetical order, Carmen Alvello, who came over from the House Committee last year, just as John Sotomayor had come over previously from the House Committee, and Larry Goldman was a former member of the House Committee, Steve Barberi, Ruvain Bell, Rachel Aaron Price, who helps us with the legal issues, Richard Richard Kenny, who is all over the place. Nothing gets beyond his vision of what he sees and who he's helping and how he's taking care of things from early morning to late at night. John Sotomayor, and last but not least, Diana Wong, who also actually was on the board many years ago, came back, and I believe that Diana was once on the House committee also. So I believe we have three now, but with Larry, that would have been four. 2 points which I'm going to get to in the questions, but I'll just bring it up now because it'll take a minute. One of the questions was that should bring it up was the issue of ClickPay and our successful entry into that program. One of the questions is how many people are on ClickPay. Now, it's everyone's right to go on ClickPay or to send checks the old-fashioned way. I don't feel safe doing it. We all hear these incidents of the post office, and the kiting, washing of checks and all that. It's happening apparently again. But right now we have a little over 1,000 people on ClickPay. Assuming that means a little over 1,000 apartments, we still have over 500 who are not on it. I want to thank Moshe Wellman because he's the one who brought this whole program into being. There literally were meetings with the rep from ClickPay, I think the period of over 3, 4, 5 months. Every Thursday, 11 o'clock was a meeting with ClickPay because it's a lot of integrating different programs to get it going. But it's a great program. As I said in the annual report, urge everyone to enter it, but it's really everyone's choice not to. But you'll find it's much easier. Another question came up. It had to do with the shredding truck, which were kind of on hiatus during COVID, but also on hiatus because that company did not want to come in certain days. We have now fairly 99% certain we have found a company that will come down on a Sunday, and we expect to have and hope to have present to the board the next meeting a shredding truck come April or May. Once we know it, we'll confirm far in advance. So I guess then people can start saving up. But there are other shredding events which we try to post, so you may hear about in the community. But we hope to have a truck back here in the spring. The next item would be I would call upon Ellen to please introduce just read the names of the candidates for the board of directors and for the House committee, please.
Good evening, everyone. So the candidates for your board of directors are Michelle Amar, Steve Barbieri, Dove Goldman, Gary Shaw, and Diana Wong. And the candidates for the House committee are Diane Letterman, Jennifer Rucker, Jeff Super, and Christine Vasquez. And all of the directed proxies should have been received already by our attorneys. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ellen. Yes, all proxies had to be by our attorney's office by 5 p.m. today. But now I will call upon our corporate counsel from the firm of Norris McLaughlin, who has represented our co-op, his firm, for 60 years, 65. I think from the beginning. Back then they were called Zold and Brandwin, always big with the co-ops, always big in the area of labor law and union representation. So, Michael, if you could just tell us what the procedure will be at this point in time and any other message you have, please.
So it's our honor to work with East River again for all these years. It's been about 15 for me doing various parts of the elections, and now, tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock, I will be working with my coworker to process the election results. We've received, well over the quorum amount over the last couple weeks now. And tomorrow morning, we'll be going through the results, tabulating them, and some point in the middle of the day, releasing the results to management to post and share with shareholders. we're following the same format as in the prior years, and looking forward to concluding the meeting. I think it's a true testament to the co-op spirit that you have so many people who participated this year, and that processed their ballots and sent them to our office. The stacks are high, but it's a good sign, and looking forward to working through this tomorrow morning, bright and early.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So now I'm ready to, again, if they haven't been answered, to start going through those questions that I want to say can be answered when it comes to litigation. Our litigation attorney, and that's not Michael Riley, is our co-op attorney. We are not able to speak on pending litigation other than what you see in the report about Hillman on anything pending. But what we can do, we will answer. I would advise people who send in questions to not send in their private email exchanges among people of how they're going to get extra questions to us by changing emails. Cut that out so we don't know. But people are adding stuff into the emails forward to us that no need. The first question, which is an important question, and I'm just waiting now is about the presence of electric bikes and electric scooters that use lithium-ion batteries. As you may know, there are signs on every bike room that say that e-bikes and e-scooters are prohibited in our bike rooms. Anyone that was there a number of months ago, we removed. Unfortunately, the city has not passed a law that will prohibit them. There is a law that was passed and has taken effect, but it's actually an article in today's New York Post that talks about it, that the city council recently banned the sale of e-batteries that don't meet UL lab type safety standards, but a law that it has no way of enforcing because the council members don't want police to seize illegal batteries from cyclists. So even if the police see an illegal battery, council doesn't want them to enforce it. They want the FDNY and Department of Consumer Affairs to launch an education program. But so far, the mayor was supposed to set up a trade-in program where you could trade in your not UL approved battery for a new battery. But the mayor has not had a chance to set it up. So as this article says, the only way is for the FDNY to ban residential e-battery storage and charging. Last week, a family of three, of a couple generations in one family, were killed again from an e-battery. We wish the fire department would act. It bans the home storage of gasoline. It bans other hazardous materials. It bans other flammable materials. But this deadly thing, it isn't, okay? So far, 17 of the 93 fire deaths this year have been because of e-fires. The commissioner calls it devastating, but they haven't. And to go further, brought up last week with the commander of the precinct about enforcement of e-bikes and people going crazy on the streets. We're almost being run down. Is that City Bike has announced that they're expanding the number of e-bikes they're going to have on the street. So now not only do we have the city bikes where people, hopefully they observe traffic laws, but we know the reality of that. But we now have that there'll be more of these bikes that can go, 25 miles an hour on the street. And it's really a deadly decision. And the funny thing is that in this article, it just says that in the last weeks of the de Blasio administration, which was almost 2 years ago, when they passed a law about e-bikes, they purposely exempted the storage and charging of, quote, not more than 5 such battery devices in your home. So someone can have 4 e-batteries in their apartment, and there's nothing we can do about it. We would ask, look, we're willing to reach out. If you know that there's an e-bike on your floor and stuff, let us know. I don't know what we can do, but we're going to try. We don't want fires. Look, we're a fireproof building. A fire gets contained, truthfully, only to that apartment. But the fact is, smoke inhalation can kill, and the damage that goes to apartments down below from water and from the fire department coming. It's not something we want, but this is a very, very serious issue. But as there's this move to try to ban cars and congestion pricing, the city encourages more bicycle riding. Great, but these e-bikes are very very deadly. Question has to do with how will we fund the additional repairs to our roofs, the elevators down the road. I think that'll be a board decision, but I think it'll be very similar to what you see now, and it'll probably be done by assessment. I think every cooperator has to remember that when local law came around, and we only finished it about a year ago, but it was a well over a year process, that initial cost was about $4.9 million. It wound up going over about $900,000 because the number of bricks that we needed. Certain buildings needed a lot more bricks because of the exposure, maybe the Northeast exposure or different exposures. That cost of almost $6 million through our mortgage, we absorbed it. Every other co-op is assessing on that. We did not. We here paid for that. We did not want to burden our cooperators. We obviously can't do that. So it will be done very likely by assessment and hopefully long-term assessment to make it less painful, because as we see, the cost is going to be great. But this is part of the infrastructure of our building. A roof does not affect only those there. Roof leaks travel in very, very strange ways. And obviously it's something that not only is required for our infrastructure, but required by the city Department of Buildings and all other. So we'll do the most efficient job that we can, and it's just something that we have to meet. Okay. Someone's asking about the amount of flip tax. Now, a lot of questions the answers are right in your annual report, but I will repeat it for those. You can always go online and see it. But the flip tax in the flip tax in 2021, which was the year where we were deeply affected by COVID, and the sales were really sharply reduced, was $2.2 million. I'm rounding down, it was 2.207. Last year, the previous fiscal year, was $4.886 million. And the year just ended that you'll see in your annual report was 3.889. So actually the flip tax from 22 to 23 dropped by $1 million. Why it dropped is pretty obvious reason. It's not that there's less sales. We don't see necessarily a decrease in the number of sales as mortgage rates go down. It is that the 20% flip tax apartments, which are the original apartments, are shrinking to levels where although we could have 30% to 25% remaining, but remember, there are many people who going from original cooperators who moved in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, who are 20%, but have no intention of moving out. They love living here. A co-op is beautiful. They're going to stay here. If they don't sell, we gather no flip tax from them. So as those 20% flip tax dry up, the flip tax is 5%. It's not something we want to touch because that is pretty much the standard and that we charge. So that is that. If someone asks, if the question is what is the flip tax that's currently this year, so far through November 20th, we've taken in $1,100,000 $185,000 flip tax, which is about half of what we budgeted for the year. But that number does not include a good number of apartments that have been approved at the board level but have not yet closed, which will bring in some of those, some of those I believe are 20 or 20% is in 5, and that will bring in a substantial amount of additional money. What we have done in recent years is we have used a conservative number on the flip tax. We do not want to get burnt in a year like with the COVID year where we were using a higher number just to say we can balance the budget that way. It's not true. It has to be a fair conservative number so that we can meet our target. We could show a profit this year of $1 million. Doesn't mean next year there'll be a profit. We sure hope so. But our legal bills, as we say with Hillman, are high, and other issues are pending. Since then is when we did our the work on since July 1st, the work on Grand Street, the sidewalk, the condensate line, the building 2. That alone is $280,000. So money comes in, and the money unfortunately goes out. But in terms of that is there was a question about the a year ago at the annual meeting. We said that the roof, once we finish with local law 11, that all the roofs will be alarmed again, and that the doors will be changed. Several people wrote that there are no alarms on the roof, and just so you know, that is not so. Every roof door is alarmed. It's a silent alarm that goes down to security, so that people on the top 3, 4, 5 floors don't hear that blaring in them whenever that goes off. And our director of security, Thomas Cleveland, he has those checked every day. I've met with our camera company over the last month or so numerous times just to check also that they are operating in such a way that the security guard doesn't have an override or anything. And we're told that they are working strongly. Question came in about illegal renters, Airbnb, and subtenants. Well, I don't know how effective, but Airbnb is basically illegal in New York City for any short-term stay. The hotel industry fought for years to get a law passed because they're losing a lot of revenue, and they're a big part. The tourism industry is a major part of New York, and so actually those listings are not allowed. I know people can go elsewhere. In terms of anyone who is illegally subletting, when we catch them, we give as strong a penalty as we can. But if you know someone who's illegally subletting, please don't write it. Let us know. I was once told by a cooperator that they weren't sure about someone on that floor, but they wouldn't give a name because the person didn't have a dog, the person was quiet, the person was this, so they didn't know what happened. But that's revenue that we should be getting through a legal sublet or not. When someone asks about indefinite subrentals, when the sales from flip taxes would get us more money, that is an incorrect statement. Although it might be true with some of the 20% of the sublets that we have, and there are approximately about 55 right now, current legal sublets, and we want to know where the illegals are. We want to legalize them. We want to penalize them because they're costing us, and they're bringing in people who have not been vetted. So please, again, everyone wants to report things to us. They see things in the parking lot, but they don't want to tell us who. And we're not magicians. I spend most of my life here, and I can't know things, and the office can't know things. But just so you know, that a sublet pays to all of us 100% of their basic maintenance for the first 2 years. For years 3 and 4, they pay us 125%, And for year 5 and on, they pay us 150%. So if I just take a basic $1,200 maintenance, and it might be a little higher, it means that we're getting, at the first time they sublet, $1,200 a month extra from that cooperator, which is $12,000, $14,400. By the time they get to the next year, it's up to maybe 16, 17, and by the 115%, 50%, it's something like $21,000 a year we're getting. Now, if I take a 2-bedroom apartment that, let's say, sells for $800,000, to use a round number, the amount of flip tax at 5% is $40,000. We are collecting on the sublet from $15,000 to $21,000 a year. This year alone, we are taking in over $900,000 from sublets. We are taking in from sublets almost not much short of 50% of what we estimate for our flip tax. There's no way that we can make up that money, and if that's a shortfall, then we're all going to have to pay, because we have to make up that shortfall. How much rent do you see from the commercial spaces? In our annual report, you could see how much income is coming in from the commercials. You will see that the amount of income coming from our commercials is up over the last couple of years. Some of our commercials may have had some difficulty during the COVID years. We've also been able to rent out the last vacant office, which would have been the beauty parlor. And we were able to rent it out to a cooperator who has an art gallery there. And they recently took over a space that was vacated. So we have and they are paying, we get very high rents. And luckily, all of our space is totally totally rented out. Okay, another question about congestion pricing. Parking spots, everyone knows the situation. It's a very, very difficult situation. It is a long time. Life passes fast. We're not happy with that there is a wait, but sometimes we're hearing from people on the list 3-4 years, where is a parking spot, and they're just going to have to wait like the rest of us. We have a limited number of parking spots, and we're lucky that we have what we have, because some of our parking spots are owned by the housing authority, and we pay them a fee just to keep those extra spots. Cooperator, which I think he was reached out to today, said he was waiting months for a light fixture. It was a special light fixture that's in the old closets and stuff. They were not made anymore because they were made in the 50s, but we were able to find them and they're available. But basically, lighting fixtures is something that everyone is responsible for themselves. He asked about a shower head. We do have shower heads, but again, people buy their own shower heads. If you want one installed by us, I think the charge is $50. Question came up about leaf blowers and electric, and I'll say the answer is no. We're going to stick with the gas leaf blowers, because we produce hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bags of leaves every year. And we've been told by our landscaper this year and last year, if we want the price to go up by thousands of dollars, they can switch over, but because it'll take them another couple of visits a week, and they bring 7, 8, 9 guys, because battery operated leaf blower, a battery lasts 25 minutes, and they just don't have 8, 9 batteries for each of the leaf blowers. Hate to say it about the noise, I'm sorry about that, but man, we live in a noisy area. We get the job done. The guys were out there today mowing. A lot of the trees that are down, the leaves have been picked up. I discussed the green reserve fund question. I definitely want to talk about that. One of the last questions. We hear questions from reserve funds. If cooperators want a reserve fund, send the office mail by the hundreds, because a reserve fund means you are paying for it. Someone is saying, oh, if we had a reserve fund, if we took 25% of the flip tax, which is $550,000, we would have had $550,000 to go towards a gas line. The trouble is, we pay for the reserve fund. Our budget would have had a shortfall of $550,000. So the last increase, which I think was 4.8, would have had to be 7% or 7.1%. You don't get away by having the money there. So we could charge people now. Do you think reserve fund would help with the roof, which is 7, 8, whatever, $9 million? Everyone has to pay when it comes up. But having a reserve fund, the board for next year, we could put in a $2 million reserve fund. But everyone, that's a 9% or so increase, or 8% extra increase. For what? When we need the money, we will come to you and get it. But you are the one who pays the reserve fund. Reserve fund doesn't come from our commercials. It comes from every one of us. So it's not, it would be wonderful, to have it. But, and I could do it easily. I could just say next year, I think the flip tax will be not 2.2 or 4, will be 2.9, and take 500,000, put in reserve fund. But then you have to pay for it, because we have to balance. We have to balance the budget. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to go back. All the roofs are alarmed. The reason that some of the doors have not been changed is because we are about to start the roofs, whether it's 6 months from now, 8 months from now, whenever. We are about to start. And if we put the new doors on now, which we have in stock, then the roofing company will damage and bang and almost destroy every one of the doors, So they're there, but the main thing is not the door. The main thing is the alarm, and I think that the last question I just see, and I'm going to say, is what is the basis of $2,000 fee for apartment renovations? Apartment renovations have a $2,000 fee because it involves massive amount of work of reviewing the plans, massive amount of visits by our manager, the contractors. Shul and I were in an apartment last week. Illegal work. They had licenses. They were putting a water line under the floor. People have put gas lines under the floor. It is not allowed. And every time that we've had to have a shutdown of water because someone is doing renovations, invariably someone's flushometer breaks. Either a flood happens in that apartment or the one below, and those flushometers cost us hundreds of dollars. So actually the fee for construction will be going up to cover only if you need a shutdown. The co-op is not responsible for someone doing hundreds of thousands of dollars of renovations, and many of them that we've seen are absolutely gorgeous. But I want to just thank everyone who joined us tonight. I want to wish everybody a very, very happy, healthy Thanksgiving, a very happy Hanukkah, which comes first, and then a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as we go into the new year. May it be a good year and a healthy year for all of us. Thank you, everyone.